Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Timothy James. I am a survivor of a stroke, a hemorrhagic stroke, I believe. Um, Hemorrhagic stroke is the medical term for it. Fact check the name of it. I may be a little off, but I I'm starting a new place to talk about my stroke journey. I am not in the beginning. I'm in the 8th month of the stroke journey. Gives me a lot of time to look back on things that I should have done better, tips that I didn't just know, little tricks of the trade. Well, I don't know tricks of the trade as far as insurance and get your documents together. So I'm coming with this page to present because in my journey I had to learn everything by myself. I didn't know anything about a stroke, let alone what causes a stroke. I just knew you got high blood pressure and sodium in your veins, and hypertension is the medical term for it. It runs on both sides of my family. So I've got high blood pressure, I think, for the last 10 years. Nothing severe. I'm 40. I just turned 40 last November. So in my 30s, had no issues with high blood pressure. Not at all. You get 39 and then all of a sudden the bottom drops out as an effect. And the thing about stroke is I'm in my 8th month. I had a brain bleed. I had a stroke on the right hemisphere of my brain, and you can look this information up for yourself, but the right side controls mobility and I believe cognitive memory. The left side of hemisphere of your brain stroke deals with speech, vision, and it's a few other things. But so I had the right side, and it affected my. You can see my hand. I can't stretch it out. I need help. I can barely turn my wrist, and that's a whole nother segment to it. But it left me partially not paralyzed, but I was unable to move the left side of my arm, my shoulder, and my leg completely. Done. So, being in the 8th month of my journey, it's a lot to look back on. It's a lot of reflections, and it happened to me suddenly. Like I always. So a little backstory. 2024, I was taking care of my grandfather. My grandfather, who fell to sepsis and couldn't walk and fell very ill. And so I spent time, I moved in with him to be a caregiver. And if you ever been a caregiver before, you realize how much it takes and how much you give. It's a selfless task. It's a honorable duty, but it is very much taxing on you. And so I was taking care of my grandpa, taking my blood pressure medicine, mind you, but my grandfather fell ill, and it was one of those ills that, he's got a few months, he's got a few weeks to, he's gone in a couple of days. So when he passed, I fell into a deep depression. I was still working, but life I just didn't pay attention to anything. And if you ever been through something, something traumatic, it could kind of fog your vision on what you need to do or how well you need to execute it. So I finished my blood pressure meds before. I was supposed to get them updated. Never went to the doctor. I was depressed. And so where I worked at, which was the emergency room in a level 1 trauma hospital, the atmosphere there is always highly stressed, highly octane, Everything is high alert. So that's a very stressful, anxiety-based job, anxiety-based atmosphere. And so I was working there, and I was a team lead at the time, and I was working so many hours, so many days straight, because after it happened, all I knew was just to go to work, to kind of push through it. It helped keep my mind off of things. And so, my girlfriend, who's my wife now, she'll always get upset at me. Why you work so many long hours? Why they always calling you in? I didn't pay attention to how much I was given. I didn't pay attention to myself. I didn't do good enough job to stay on my blood pressure meds. So, May 3rd, I get up. I'm in Georgia, so it's already hot. The humidity is like 101. And I'm already feeling a little tired, groggy. I just worked a 14-hour shift, but I was going to get up and go see my girlfriend, who's my wife now. Get up, take a shower. Day is normal. I'm already feeling high intensity, maybe because of lack of sleep or, well, the lack of sleep, and I didn't take my blood pressure meds. I didn't have them. So, I took those. Well, excuse me, I didn't take those. So, I went to the store. I was feeling a little groggy. I went to go grab an energy drink, an energy shot, really. And you really got to pay attention to the caffeine levels in those energy shots. If you have hypertension, high blood pressure, be mindful of those. I won't say totally stay away from them. That was probably the best thing to say. Just done with them quickly. But if you're going to do them, ration them. Feel your body when you take a certain energy drink, and then feel it out how much you think. Well, maybe I need just 2 sips, or I can drink a couple of jokes. I wouldn't recommend you downing the whole energy drink. That just wouldn't be effective for your high blood pressure. So I took the shot. Didn't feel it immediately. I knew it just kept me alert, kept me awake because I was tired. Shot my blood pressure up. Now, I'm already riding. It's already in Georgia. It's heat. I'm sweating, but I'm thinking nothing of it. I'm just pushing through. I get to my girlfriend's house. She's got AC, so I go and sit down. And we have a conversation, laughing and joking. And so, I go in the bedroom to go lay down because I'm just still sweating. Not sweating to the point where it's alarming, just naturally sweating. I'm a hairy guy, I sweat. So I go wipe myself off and I go sit down, and we're still laughing, joking, and I feel like this numbness that's going on in my arm and in my leg. Like I'm going numb. I'm still talking and laughing, but I'm grabbing it, and after a while I laugh, blood pressure shoots all the way up, and then as I'm talking, explaining myself, I'm starting to slur. These are the words from my wife, who's looking at me. She's like, say it again, and I'm like, I'm slurring. And she's like, why are you talking like that? I'm like, what do you mean, why are you talking like that? Because when a stroke, they call it a silent killer. Because it's nothing to alarm you. If you're wondering, well, you have high blood pressure, you must have something beforehand to alarm you. That's not the case. My body internalizes stress sometimes to where I've built up enough defense to where if it was high, I wouldn't even know. The only time I believed it was really high is when I got like these extreme headaches in the back of my ear. Throbbing, sensational. And it's a slight, if I had to describe it, it would be like when you go cook eggs and then you go pour the grease out and you put water on the pan. It's that sizzling sound. That's That's what it felt like with those headaches. So, which, come to find out, I was having a brain bleed. Didn't know that. So, um, we're still talking, and she's trying to figure out. And luckily, my wife is a medical assistant. She has medical knowledge of a stroke, so there's ways you can identify with somebody who's having a stroke. And so there's a protocol. You know, I was fortunate my wife is in the medical field, so she had that knowledge. So she did a few eye tests, and they asked me what the day is, and asked me to repeat a few things, and I couldn't do it. And then she was like, I think you're having a stroke. Well, me not knowing, I didn't brush it off. I was like, this tingling feeling intensified. I don't understand. So I'm like, I guess I am having a stroke. So she tells me to sit on the bed. And I have to use the bathroom. So I stand up and I immediately collapse. Stroke, you can tell in the face. You can tell by somebody's speech, or their vision may get impaired, or their balance. You have no equilibrium at all when you're having a stroke. All that goes out the window. So I fell, and I'm naturally falling. So I'm thinking I can get up. Okay, I'm thinking I'm rolling over trying to grab the rail that's at the bottom of my bed, but I can't move my left arm. I'm trying to move it to help me. So I'm just like, I just need to get up. I'm grabbing my right arm, fighting, and my left leg is not moving. I'm not understanding why, but I'm not worried about it. I'm just trying to get up. Still having these extreme headaches. And what I come to realize, a telltale sign you're having a stroke is you can't control your bowels. So I was trying to hold. She was like, what are you doing? I was like, help me up. I need to go to the bathroom. And I couldn't. I just pissed on myself. When I did that, I knew something was wrong. I just didn't know exactly what. So the EMT, she called the EMTs. The EMTs get here. I wanted to go to my job, to the hospital where I work at, because I felt more comfortable. But in stroke protocol, when you're on stroke alert they take you to the nearest hospital. So when I get there, they run a bunch of tests on me. They give me an X-ray and an MRI, and it was like, you had a stroke. And I was like, what is a stroke? I don't know a stroke. I've only heard stories of people who had strokes, or seen people who've had arms like this. I mean, it didn't sit of something I'm experienced in. So I'm like, it was like you had a brain bleed. And so you're incapable of moving your left arm, your left leg, pretty much your left side, right? So I'm like, I'm still not aware of the severity of it. Because you're naturally, like, you're hearing things, but you're in a disbelief that this could happen to you, like this did happen to you. I'm running tests. They're trying different pills. I mean, I think I came in at 280, 287 over like 196, something very high. And so when you're in the hospital, and in that moment, I still didn't understand. When you have a stroke, if you aren't knowledgeable of the stroke, you're going to have a few days where you're in disbelief. This can't be me. This is impossible. This can't happen. Like, something else has got to be wrong. Like, it's not that severe, right? You know, you're in control of your own life, you say. You pay attention, for the most part, to everything. You're in control. So, I'm there with my family and friends, and by then, people noticing things, such as the way my face looked and my speech is slurring like crazy. And I get there and the doctor's like, you had a stroke. I'm like, okay. Now I'm only concerned about how well do I get better. He said, it looks like you're going to be down about a year. I was like, what? And at that moment, life just flashed. It wasn't necessarily a big flash, because when you go through something traumatic, you don't really think about everything at the moment. But when you settle in and you get that information, it does hit you. Like, I started to think about relationships. Luckily, my relationship was good with people. My family was good. Friends was good. I didn't have any bad arguments with somebody that left in a wrong kind of vibe. You know, I started to think about, I can't work. If I can't work, I can't pay bills. I would recommend somebody get some Aflac, some injury insurance, something that helps you pay along. If you're a person that could possibly have a severe condition and it happens to you, it could happen to you more frequently than you would expect it, I would recommend you getting some Aflac insurance, something to help you along with. I had insurance, I had good insurance, so I wasn't really worrying about paying for anything. Well, I was just like, I know I'm gonna get a big bill on the back end, but at least I got insurance. If you don't have insurance, I would reach out to a case manager. Just request a case manager at the nursing, and they'll send somebody to try to get you applying for insurance or some government assistance or something like that. So got that news, and what I realized was like, strokes are very high up there as far as like cancer and other situations on life-threatening conditions. And two leading causes of strokes is brain bleeds and blood clots. Those are the two leading causes of a stroke. And strokes is when oxygen gets cut off from the brain, and now your blood has to pump more and more of it, and it raises your blood pressure level. And depending on what side of the brain you had your stroke on, those are results that affect you. I would recommend you looking it up. I don't remember the doctor. I think looking back on it, I would have somebody write down the doctor's name and their specifications of their specialty, so you can go back and try to contact that person if you need something for insurance purposes. So I had to call my job and tell them, and like, it took maybe a full day to fully set in that I wasn't going to be doing anything. I think for the people who's had the stroke, that first initial week is a roller coaster of emotions. You're going to be upbeat, you're going to be positive, but the more and more they're running tests on you, more and more, and I don't like hospitals. I work in one, but I'm not fond of it. The more they run tests on you, the more and more they restrict how you eat and what you can do. It's very frustrating. It can be frustrating because you're taken out of your natural controlled environment. You're living your life every day how you want to do it. Regardless or not, it's you in control. Here, you're not in control. You're at the hand of the doctor and the nurses and the PCTs and everybody else. You got a little call button to call a nurse in to ask, and like, I was bedridden, so I couldn't get up. I couldn't use the bathroom. I had to have a little pouch that they have on me. And so you start to really reflect who you are as an individual. And that could be a very sad or very proud thing, depending on who you are. The emotional roller coaster you'll go through in the beginning. frustration, anxiety, impatientness, sadness, depression. Like, because you're thinking, like, I'll never be the same again. I'll never be able to walk normal again, you know? And so I'm in the hospital. I'm getting blood drawn every minute. It's an uncomfortable situation. Okay? You don't hang out and live normally at a hospital. So having somebody constantly walk in and out of your room like every 45 minutes, it can get a little annoying. Having them wake you up early to take blood and to draw blood to give you more pills. The food for the families, whoever is being supportive to that person. In the at first initial week, I was just gather all information. And what I mean by information, find out what type of stroke they had, research your recovery time. If you have insurance, reach out to your insurance company, find out exactly what they pay for and what they don't. It's called benefits and eligibility with your insurance company. You'll call them, you'll speak to somebody, and you will say, I want the benefits and eligibility department. Such and such had a stroke. I just want to know, is this covered? Is this in network or is it out of network? Because that depends on whether or not your bill is going to be significantly smaller or extremely higher if they're in network or out of network. And in network and out of network simply means is if your provider has a contract with that insurance company to collaborate. If they do say, hey, contracting with you, with Aetna, I'm going to get some patients in. We're going to give a discount price to the people that's being seen. Okay, cool. If a doctor says, no, I'm not in contract with that, the bill's going to be higher. So be mindful of that. You want to have somebody check into that. And if it's you, like me, it was emotions. It's a roller coaster of emotions. I think I've spent maybe 21 weeks in the hospital, going from EKGs to MRIs to CT CAT scans of your brain. And because the hospitals, all they're there to do is get you leveled and set. What the doctors prescribe me, most importantly, normally if you have insurances, you want to get to some type of rehab facility. You want to look into that. If you haven't gotten information, if no nurses stop by, if no case managers stop by, if a doctor, I would ask a doctor, what therapy, rehab facilities would you recommend? Because they're going to stabilize you. And then they'll stabilize you enough to transfer you to the rehab facility. And that's where you'll start the real work begins. Initial hospitals, they were just monitoring to make sure I was good. Just make sure I was good. Now, I'm going to skip a little ahead. I would, if you had a brain bleed, I would have them check for blood clots too. Because initially, I went to the hospital for a brain bleed. They got me level set, and then I went to the rehab facility. Well, at the rehab facility, I'm working on my physical and occupational speech therapy, but the medicine they give me, I'm yarning, and as I start to yarn, I started to suffocate. My lungs, my brain was not able to communicate with my lungs and tell them to breathe, to let oxygen, and I had to beat on my chest. My girlfriend, who's my wife now, literally had to walk in on me, and she was like, you might want to tell the doctor. So they rushed me to another facility, did a x-ray of my chest. They put some ink in me, some form of ink, to show up on the monitor screen, and as soon as I got back, they rushed me to the hospital. And it was like, you got blood clots. And I asked how many. She said a lot of them. So in brain bleeds, I don't know if they normally check for blood clots, but you might want to have them check for blood clots periodically, just through the initial phase of your recovery, of your journey. Like, I'm not gonna lie here. Having a stroke is kind of devastating. It's devastating to go through that whole process. But you can overcome it, though. You can recover. You can be healthier. Now, every case-by-case study of a stroke is different, and the doctors and nurses will tell you. So, comparing your stroke to your aunt's stroke or your friend's stroke will never be the same, because totally two different individuals having stroke. So, but in that moment, you're just sitting there and everything is going through your mind. How are you gonna pay bills? What the car's like? If you had kids, which I had none, but how they're gonna get there. You wanna appoint that to somebody that you can trust, that can facilitate that. Because your focus should be on healing and understanding. The more you understand about what happened to you, the better you are with learning on ways to get better. I would say that. So understand your stroke. Get to know your doctor. Write his name down, because you're going to need for that later. If you're working in a stroke, reach out to FMLA. Let them know what happened. I would recommend you getting every facility that you go to, and every doctor, take the doctor's name, and because they're gonna have the documentation, and that's a whole nother story. Like, to get FMLA, you're gonna need a whole lot of medical records and doctor's notes from his visitations and all these tests and lab results. So you want to keep that in mind. Keep that on the forefront. Appoint somebody you can trust to go handle that for you. Because you're gonna need, that's gonna be different from you getting approved for short-term disability or long-term disability, or you having to wait. And the longer you wait with no income, you become to be unsettled. So you want to hit that on top of it. And it's always a process. It's always a wait. Like, you may put it in, but it's definitely like maybe a week's time, depending on where you are and how your facility moves, or insurance companies. But it's always a waiting game. It's a lot for me. I got married. It's definitely made me appreciate life more. Appreciate the family. Appreciate the people. And there's different phases of stroke. They'll tell you you'll see the fastest results within the first 3 to 6 months of your stroke. So I would just recommend you being patient with yourself, being patient with the process, understanding what you're going through, and just learning as much as you can for it, but also getting a mindset, because it's going to be a beast. Make no joke about it, but you can overcome. You can thrive in this season of your affliction. It's not the end for you. You can overcome a stroke. You can be a stroke survivor. The more you listen, the more you understand. I would recommend to family, allow that person to be frustrated, to vent. They may have a moment of stubbornness because you're human. You're going to go through all of these phases of what your life used to be and who you used to be and what you used to do, and now you can't do it no more. It makes you bitter. And it's okay. Don't beat yourself up. Don't tear yourself down. Gotta switch your gears. Okay, this happened to me. How can I get better? And understand that it's a walk. You're walking in a marathon. That's the best way I can put it. If you're signing up for a 5K, just know you're about to walk that 5K. That's how the process is. And so, I just want to leave. I'm going to quit there. I don't want to drag it out anymore. But I am a stroke survivor, and I hope to give more emphasis and help other families and friends who support them, because I didn't have that help. So I'm going to be doing weekly uploads of my videos. Like and subscribe. Comment, please. I would love to know about your journeys. Iron sharpens iron. Let's build a community to where we beat this thing, to where it's not the end all be all. Yes, it's devastating. Yes, it happened to you. Yes, you should have been better. Yes, you should have taken your blood pressure better. Should have been more alert. But it happened. Forgive yourself. Get determined. Get angry. Not a lot, though. And set those goals that you want. And begin to focus on building to meet those goals. Learn all you can. I'm Timothy James. I'm a stroke survivor. To all my stroke survivors out there, keep fighting, keep living on, keep making memories, keep surpassing all the odds. Thank you, and I'll see you again.